the stream. I don't think I could see your super chat. So if you can just, for the 2 people who put them on, if you can just put your question in the comments, then I'll be able to see it and go from there. So sorry about that. I don't know. They kicked me off. All right. So yeah, if you had a super chat, just put your question at the bottom in the comments and I'll be able to see it there and get to you. I think there was 2. Yeah, I don't know. Venusian stud, they kicked me off. So there's a acceptance and then a flow and then a joining that's going to occur. That joining, that new community, that new camaraderie, that new paradigm, it's coming in. It's been coming in since the Pluto Uranus conjunction in the 60s in Virgo. That's the large cycle, the largest cycle. Then we've recently, a few years ago, I mean, like recently, a few years ago, not too many, what, 7 years ago? We'll have to look back. Had that square of Uranus and Pluto. We'll eventually get to the opposition. That is like the righteous response to everything that was begun in the 60s. And let's remember that that was the real collective birth of the ideas of equality coming into reality, with civil rights come to the surface. A lot of the hot issues that we're dealing with now really were given birth to at that conjunction. And that has a lot to do with the karma that we're clearing. Things related to repression. What happens within empires, class systems. So, Sun in Cancer, let's talk about that briefly here. Now, it comes into Cancer tonight at like 11:47 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:46, 11:47. This gives us about a month of looking at family, the homeland, matters of heart, things that are closer to home. And it does increase the likelihood that we will see more conflicts and outbreaks. Wow, the sun is in Cancer because it is in the sign of the homeland. Hey, kitty. I don't think you guys have gotten to meet my cat because she doesn't like my girls. But I'm in my closet where there's a plug, so she's come to join us. No, FG, you didn't miss anything. You missed me going dead and getting kicked off the stream. So we are more concerned with what's happening within a certain boundary. We spend more time with those closer to us with the sun in Cancer, but it will increase some of the fighting in the boundary issues that we're going to see nationally. Saturn and Cancer always have that connotation. Alrighty, I'll take a few questions here. I think that was heavy enough, don't you think? It was pretty heavy stuff. Marcel, I have moon semi-square Uranus natal. What does that mean? I'm known to have erratic mood swings and volatile reactions. It's very exciting, to be honest. It probably is because it brings a manic quality to life. Moon in a semi-square to Uranus is the same as any hard aspect. The semi-square, this is quadrate, the square, the opposition. The conjunction is different because it doesn't bring those overt reactions, emotional reactions. It's more of a more consistently insular or distant thing. ER, can you put your super chat back? I can't see it anymore. Can you just just put your question down? Don't do the super chat again. Just put your question in. So with a moon in a hard aspect to Uranus, we have to look at our reactivity. We have to look at our avoidance and vigilance. Most of the time, we're going to suffer from some amount of avoidance with Moon Uranus hard aspects. The form of it can be different depending on the aspect, but with the square, there does tend to be a consistent pushing away of what threatens our space, our emotional sovereignty, threatens to burden us. And so we can want closeness. We do want contact with Moon Uranus aspects, but we may push it away. It's more consistent with the square, with more of a consistent shield up with squares. Where it's an either or with the opposition. Very hot and cold, in and out, unreliable. But we're reliably consistent in our inconsistency with the square. We're not consistent in our inconsistency with an opposition. We are consistent with our consistent unreachability with the conjunction. That was a good question. ER, how do I believe tarot works? Psychological projection, spirit guide, synchronicity, Neptune. Much appreciated. All right. This is one I probably want to address more in my subscriber group to give you a really in-depth answer. There's a few reasons why. Yeah, I used to think psychological projection before I went through my Kundalini awakening. That was my main frame of understanding it, and that, makes a lot of sense. You are going to hear and see what pertains to your story in the messages that you're receiving, in the cards that you're receiving. Since I went through that seriously painful twin flame experience and had that horrible, horrible Kundalini awakening, which everybody venerates. Yeah, let's have a Kundalini awakening. Let's have a spiritual awakening. I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. That was the most painful thing that I have ever been through. And I hope I never go through something of that magnitude again. Because that was like giving birth. Maybe if I'm farther away from it, just like giving birth, you kind of forget the pain and the suffering, and you just are so happy about everything you got out of it, and you're like, "Yeah, I'll have another child." Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll get to that. I don't know. I'm not there yet. I'm still too close to it, and it's not completely wrapped up, but I'm at the end of it. Oh, lost stage on the day of my Kundalini awakening, that was crazy. You wanna hear the transits? It was this is crazy. Astrology is real. So I have this grand cross in my chart. Mars is at 16 degrees Virgo, opposes Jupiter at 14 degrees Pisces. They're both square to 16-degree north and south node. North node is in Sagittarius, south node is in Gemini. So when Mars and Jupiter were conjunct last, was it the 17th? I don't remember the exact date, last August. They were exactly at my south node. So Jupiter square to Jupiter, Mars is square to Mars, they're at the south node. They're usually in opposition, but they are in conjunction at my south node, and there were other things going on too. Neptune in conjunct to the sun, at the same time Pluto in conjunct to the sun, Pluto square to the moon, and Neptune in conjunct to the moon. It was a massive, massive amount of pressure at once, and it caused me to push my suffering out of like a toothpaste tube, is what it felt like. Because that day, that was the day. I had been shaving off my karma, but that was the day that I died. That was the worst and the best day of my life. It was that Mars Jupiter business. That was the trigger, the south node. That's why I see tarot different. Because it had been about a year that I'd been having my mind open. Because when you have a Neptune in conjunct to the sun and the moon at the same time, and then Pluto also gets in there and is also in conjunct and square at the same time. It's a major breakdown. And I knew it was coming. I mean, I had it on the calendar for a decade. I knew it was coming. But I did not think that it was going to be that bad. Because I thought I was further along when it came to clearing my karma. I didn't know myself well enough. There was a trap door that somebody opened. And out of that trap door came the worst suffering. That was all the stuff I'd hidden for a good reason. If it were up to me, it'd still be hidden. Because my identity didn't want that to come out for a reason. Because it destroyed my ego. And it hurt so badly. It destroyed how I saw myself. That is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. So when people talk about how they're after that Kundalini awakening, you better hope it comes slow. So when it comes fast, that's a lot of trauma to process in a really short amount of time. And it is terrifying to have that much suffering come to the surface and to not be able to stem it. Because it's a tear in the subconscious. When you have an alchemical experience or an experience where there's a massive amount of projection, it breaks your it breaks your ego structure. It's a shattering experience because what you think of yourself, you see that is not true. You see how much you've been lying. That was everything that I saw. It was all my inauthenticity, everything I thought. Well, a lot of it. There's still some things that I'm sure are not known. There's a lot of what I thought was just not true. So it was after that I picked tarot up again in a real way, or during it. It was a few months, maybe a year preceding that. It's always been a tool, but I didn't see it the way I see it now. Now I understand the sacredness of it. I understand at this moment, any given moment, is the sum of everything that has happened up to this point. And tarot is a deck of omens and messages that if you know how to read them and you're sensitive to your own guidance and intuition, it's just a simple form of channeling. The more that you can get your own perception and perspective out of the way and simply interpret, become a empty straw. The better at it you get. I used to think it was all psychology. But now I know it's divine. I would never have said that a few years ago. because that's not who I was. But it's who I am now. I would have been so embarrassed to say something like that. No, it's just a few years ago. I saw myself as a very left brain, rational, atheist astrologer. But I've had some dramatic experiences over the past couple of years. It showed me how wrong I was. Oh my God, I was so wrong. I was so wrong. How could I have been so wrong? I know things now I didn't know before. It's because I cleared my karma. It was my suffering, my repression, my identity, my ideas. It kept me from knowing what was really real, what was more real. It wasn't really me. Keyboards. How did I get in touch with my intuition in a deeper way? I healed. I healed. I stopped telling myself stories about myself. Well, so many. I'm sure that there's some that are still cycling again. There will always be things in us that we don't know. But we can get ever closer to understanding those blind spots through self-awareness. FG, that dark night is scary. Yeah, that's why we don't want to go there. And I think we have a lot of false dark nights of the soul. We can have several false ones, where it's more of a soap opera. But it's not until you get to the real one where not till you get to the real one where you're like, I don't care if I live or die. I just do not fucking care. I am done. That's a terrible, terrible place to be. I think for me, it was worse than a lot of people because I do have that Moon Uranus conjunction. And there was a lot of emotions that I have been cut off from. Dreamscape, can you rewrite your super chat? Because I can't see it anymore. But if you can just rewrite it, don't buy it again. Just write it down at the bottom. But I had always been cut off from my emotions to some degree. It's what you get with Moon Uranus conjunctions. Because there's a super hypersensitivity that is there in children. And the only way that you can deal with that, because you don't have coping mechanisms, is to ignore or cut off or cut out in some way. It's a number one coping mechanism of Moon Uranus conjunction people. So it was like a nerve that had gone to sleep, like a leg. My emotions had gone to sleep. And then as they woke up, it was extremely painful, just like the blood coming into, an appendage that has gone to sleep. At first, it's just so hypersensitive and painful, you can't even move it. It's just, "Ooh." And that's where I was, for a long, long period of time. But came out of it and came into sensitivity. And that's where I am now. I'm in sensitivity now. I hardly ever cried before. Now I cry all the time. But it's good cry. So my emotions are available. They're on the surface. I'm not afraid to feel them. I'm not afraid to know it's true. And what also helped to get me in touch with my intuition was changing my whole life so that I could be completely honest about feeling all my feelings. I had to change my lifestyle. I had to leave my marriage, my long-term marriage, because it had run its course. And there was a part of me that didn't want to do that because I was committed to loyalty. But I had to rethink that and realize that I wanted to be committed to happiness. I didn't want to be committed to commitment. That didn't make sense. So that was a big part of getting in touch with my intuition, was getting out of a lifestyle and commitments that didn't reflect or didn't allow me to experience my full range of emotions. So changing my situation, my condition, healing, inviting my emotions to be on the surface. So that barometer is constantly in tune. Yeah, that's what did it. Now I can feel what's what. Before I couldn't always tell what was always good and what was always bad. I could get it wrong. It was good. I was right on a good amount of the time. Now I'm really right on to where I can really trust myself. Ugh, Kundalini. Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I saw those transits coming. I didn't see that coming. Self-made. So am I going to change my approach to astrology? I already have. What you see is my changed approach. It's not going to get much weirder than it. Well, maybe it will be, but not probably not this year. All right, so I'm looking for that question. Dreamscape. Neptune square Neptune. All right. Let's talk about that. Neptune's in your 12th. So that's where it should be. At least you got that. Neptune is in the archetypally perfect place in the 12th house. That helps when we do have a planet that is going through difficult transit, and it's already tenanting a house that it does well in. It just gives easier results. So the Neptune square, we all get that at a certain age in our late 30s. And that is one of the transits of midlife that accompanies the Pluto square to natal Pluto that we get about age 37 in this particular 37, 38 in this particular generation. So, oh boy, the Pluto square hits us, and that's where we realize we're not young, but we're not old either. We're approaching midlife, and we start to feel the crunch of time. And then the Neptune square hits right after. And this is where we go into a period of disillusionment about life, reality, the world, because we're at a certain age and we look around and we're like, is this all there is? Is this it? I thought there would be more. I've been waiting for more. This is it? And so our childish illusions about what life is going to bring us or what it's going to turn into, or the fantasies of life, we start to really see through those at the Neptune square, and it is a depressing, nihilistic time for most people. If you have more Neptune in your chart, it can be more disappointing. And we can also go through this compensatory thing where we can try to double down. We don't want the blinders to come off. They do. They do. But it can take a little longer for some. Some people don't resist it as much. If you have more, if you're more Saturn heavy, then probably be something to accept easier. But the Neptune square is that's a hard year for most people to go through. It challenges a lot of our romantic illusions. As told by a winner, no birth time, you're adopted, no time on the birth certificate. I love astrology. How would you navigate in my situation? Don't try to guess your ascendant. Just don't do it. It is notoriously wrong when we guess ascendants, because you could be seeing something on the ascendant or an aspect to the ascendant. You could be attributing to the ascendant, and it's not the ascendant. So don't try to guess. Birth chart rectification is also notoriously inaccurate. It may be one of those things, sweetie, where you just may not have that piece of the puzzle. So I'm going to grab a tissue, guys. So all that emotional sharing got me all snotty. That may be a piece of your puzzle that you just don't have. And maybe if you get a chance to speak to somebody who was present, you may be able to get a little bit closer to the birth time. And sometimes too, I don't know if they do this anymore, but they used to. Hospitals would keep a record of specific to the minute birth times, even if it isn't on the birth certificate. And if you call them, they may look it up for you for a fee. Oh, banana. You are going through something similar. Yeah, you're having a explosion of also. Yeah, well, your vibe attracts your tribe. Yeah, watching your ascendant or watching your transits may give you some clue. If you watch them over the course of time, it may give you more of a clue about what your ascendant might be. But yeah, that may just not be something that you'll ever concretely know. Self-made. I'm going to have Neptune square Neptune along with Saturn square Neptune and Pluto square by natal eighth house of Scorpio with transit Pluto in the 12th. Okay, you're getting a little bit of a pile up there. Neptune square Neptune, Saturn square Neptune. So that is, yeah, at the same time, the Neptune Saturn conjunction squaring the natal Neptune is going to be a few of you that are going to be getting that. And then the Pluto square at the same time. So that's the question that the last person just uh, asked, the Neptune square. And I talked about how that happens at the same time that the Pluto square is occurring. So it'll be that same outcome where you have that first threshold of that transit into midlife. And then you're going to have that very difficult nihilistic time where you're questioning everything. And not really sure what's real for a little while with the Neptune square to Neptune. So, yeah, I don't think that we should make really consequential long-term decisions while we're under a difficult double transit like that, because we can be making decisions out of duress or out of stress, sometimes out of avoidance, and it may not be what we want when we come to the other side of those transits, when we get on the other side of those difficulties. So that is something to be aware of. Sometimes we can freak out and have some damaging affairs or do some things during that period of time when we're having that double square. We can make some choices that impact our they show the flaws in our character so that we have a chance to shore those up and to see who we really are compared to who we thought we were. Yeah, FG, that's a very good point. In the old days, people didn't know their ascendants. Right. Astrology still worked. And even in some countries nowadays, there is a tradition of not recording birth times, and astrology still works. We just don't have that particular piece of the puzzle. So you'd be looking at your planets, your main planets, instead of the houses, ascendant, and the points. It's still a lot to look at. Just there is a lot to study. Neptune tried my natal Pluto. It was one of the worst days of my life. Yeah, Neptune, Pluto transits, even the easy ones. Pluto can pop the bubble of Neptune. Mm. You know, Neptune is full of helium and hope, and Neptune is the pin that's put into that. So, yeah, that can be rough. As told by a winner. So you found some more information out about yourself. I hope that what you found out does not have an effect on how you see yourself, because where you've come from is not descriptive of where you're going. You get to create yourself. You get to be who you want to be. Your origin is not who you are. So be creative with your life and look at it like you were given a clean slate. A lot of people are not given. Um, okay. We have any more up here that I missed? I don't think I had any more super chats that I missed. Did I get to all of them? I think so. If I missed a super chat, let me know. Oh, good. As told by a winner, you have an excellent attitude about life and yourself. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. You're going to get the best out of everything if you're being that creative and that willing to move forward with a version of yourself that you get to make up. It'll make it ever so much easier if you ever go through what I went through and you end up going through a big identity breakdown, Kundalini awakening. It'll be so much easier because you'll already have gone through a big part of that process. um, and enacted more of the natural desires of your heart before your back was up against the wall. Sometimes it's transits that'll force an issue. But in your case, you get to get ahead of things. Okay, guys, I should get going. I am almost out of voice. Yeah, FG, my audience is very educated, extremely educated, more so than most audiences. I have a pretty technical channel. I have attracted some more spiritual people to me over the past couple of years as my personality has changed and my identity has opened up and more of my authenticity has come to the surface. It's been very much reflected in the people who no longer vibe with me and think I'm insane, and the people who vibe with me more and resonate. So yeah, I still have a lot of the technical. The people are interested in the technical stuff and the aspect part of things. But my audience has become more rich and more complex and more mixed over the past couple of years of as I have gotten a bit more woo woo. uh, all right, guys, that's what I got. I am running out of voice. I will check in with you tomorrow. Have a good day.